Hello! Welcome back to Trial Shack. I'm Ian Johnston and today I'm running through everything you need to know about rubber grips. Starting off with the shape of the grip. Grips either come open-ended or with closed caps, closed ends. Just means that the material runs over the end of the grip, and one of the things it does do is stop the grip from riding along the bar, which can happen after riding a lot. You look down and just find that your grips just manage to move along the bar a little bit. That can't happen obviously with a closed cap, closed end grips. Also, a common difference in shape is whether the grip is the same all the way along or whether you've got this, is called the flange, gives your bike that BMX look. So if you're a street rider, it might be a reason why you're going for a flanged grip rather than a flangeless grip. The functional benefit of the flange is that you can tell without looking where your hand is on the grip. You've got something to rest your hand against as it goes to the far inside of the grips. I don't think there's any other real reason for the flange existing, apart from it looks cool. These grips have kind of got a raised bit on both ends, so you've got a raised bit on the end of the bar end as well, similar to the lizard skin Danny MacAskill grips. You can tell when you're at the end of the bar because you can feel your hand running over the end of the grip. Whereas on the inside of the grip, it's got a slightly raised bit. It will stop you gripping the grips in the wrong place. Next up is the compound, which just means the material used to make the grip, or the type of material, the softness. These Gusset File grips are quite hard, so are these inspired grips. Possibly more suitable for if you're a rider that likes wearing gloves whilst riding. Personally, I prefer not to be wearing gloves. I pop gloves on when I start getting sweaty hands in the summer. So I've typically gone for a softer compound grip, which, what are these? These Cult Vans Waffle grips are fairly medium to soft compound, and these ODI Longnecks are medium to soft again. If you go for a really soft compound grip, you can find it actually ends up feeling sticky and a bit weird. I've never liked that personally. Especially if you go on someone else's bike and you just have a feel and you're, oh, I've got your grip slime on my hands. I haven't actually got a soft. These probably started off medium and after a lot of use have got softer and softer. ODI Longneck grips are pretty soft. I describe them as medium to soft. It's comfortable and doesn't hurt your hands. Something I found with the Gusset grips was that they started hurting my hands. And I haven't got a very manual job. I work in IT, so my hands are pretty soft. But I found that after a couple of hours riding with these, I started having pains here on my hand. I put gloves on, and obviously the damage had already been done, and so they were still hurting. So these are a bit too hard for me personally. But if you wore gloves all the time, then you might want a harder compound. The grip pattern is quite similar between the inspired, the Gusset and the lizard skins here, as opposed to these ODI Longnecks, which have got kind of this lined grip pattern. These three have got like a tiny triangle knurled effect, whereas the compound of the lizard skin grips is a lot softer than you find on the inspired and the Gusset grips. You can just tell that it's softer whilst using them. It doesn't feel as soft as like the ODI Longnecks, but they're definitely softer than the Gusset File grips. I could ride without gloves with these lizard skins and they didn't hurt my hands. So quite liked that about the compound that was used there. The other thing that differentiates between rubber grips is how thick the material is. So these Gusset grips, the material is quite thin. It gives you a close to bar feel, but also it makes the grip and the feel of the holding of the handlebars quite hard. So I've described that in the reviews as a close to bar feel. The opposite of that, these lizard skins, the material on these is quite wide, quite thick, and so it actually feels like it produces quite a wide grip. So obviously the tighter you are to a bar, the more clamped your hand is. Whereas if you've got a wider grip, your hand's going to be further and further, obviously not that big, but You get what I mean. Close to bar, away from bar kind of grip. So I can see why riders like that close to bar grip using things like bar tape, because you get a good clamp on the handlebar. And with these lizard skins, because they are a little bit thicker material, you can tell slightly that your hand is slightly more opened. Moving on to bar ends. Grips always come with bar ends, at least they always should. You should always use them. Even grips with closed ends come with bar ends, so these lizard skin ones come with these little bar plugs, and you pop that in the bar first before putting the grip over the top. Over time, if you're using closed grips without a bar end, then the grip, as you put your bike down on the floor, is just going to slowly make its way through that rubber material, and then the bar will be exposed. And the same as that G's grater effect of that pushing through that rubber, if you land on your bars, you'll get that G's grater effect into your body or into your arm, wherever you like. And that's the importance of bar ends. If you've got a bar end on, you're going to get a bruise rather than a cheese grated bar into the chest. You get different types of bar ends, bar plugs. So these ODI ones, they just push in, you can just hammer them in. Same with the lizard skin ones here, and the Colt Vans Waffle came with bar plugs. These wedge bar plugs, you pop them into the handlebar, hold them in place. Obviously you'll have your grip on there first, and then as you tighten that screw, that wedge drives into this plastic, which forces these two bits of plastic outwards, so that's going to hold that bar plug in place inside your handlebars. In terms of fitting and removal of grips, I tend to use a bit of hairspray. If you look at fitting of grips videos on YouTube, then there's quite a lot of them. The ones I've seen, people tend to be quite generous with the old hairspray or with the alcohol rub. So one thing you can use is alcohol rub. It can mean it's really easy to slide the grip on, and then because there's so much alcohol in the liquid, then that'll evaporate and it just means that it's gone, and then your grip's nice and stuck to the bar. I've even just used a little bit of water before. I prefer to go for a tiny bit of liquid, just enough to help you ease the grip into place without getting stuck or doing that at the end of the bar for about 10 minutes and it not going anywhere. But not enough so that the grip actually moves when it's got onto the bar, because then you're gonna have to wait ages. I've seen some of these tutorials and it says leave your bike for 24 hours for it to dry up. I very rarely am doing maintenance work and then leave the bike for 24 hours before I go and ride it. So I've usually gone for a tiny bit of water inside the grip and then just eased it on to the point where it's not moving. And if it is still moving after I've got the grip on the bar, I tend to roll the grips back. And it's easier when it's on the bar, and you can just kind of force the grip back, dry off the bar a bit because it's still in place, and then roll the grips back on again, and that's usually enough just to stop them moving. If you're using hairspray, then with open-ended grips, then I just point it somewhere and usually spray a tiny bit in. That's probably more than I want as well. And as you can see, it's actually probably way too much there. Really easy to then get the grip on and off. Too easy almost. So if you put too much on, I'd pull it off again, get a rag and clean a bit of hairspray off and put it back on again. And even taking it off and putting it on again a couple of times, that's already a bit harder to get on. And what I'm usually going for is get the grip on and it doesn't move. But I mean, one of the points of using hairspray is that it dries off, and then you've got a little bit of hold gripping the grip onto the handlebar. You can actually use grip glue. I've never used that, but that's properly gluing the grip onto the handlebar. And I've heard of people, I know Ali's mentioned it before, Ali Clarkson, using spray paint as like the nuclear option, because once that dries, it's definitely not coming off very easily. In terms of removing grips, you can usually use a bit of oil or something like that. The GT85 normally comes with that little plastic tube that you can pop in. If you drive that plastic tube down into the grip and just spray a little bit of G85 in, you're going to be able to work the grip off. Quite often, when you've been using grips a while, like I have with these ODIs, then like I mentioned about rolling the grip back, you can usually do that to about halfway, and then if you just get your fingers on the inside of that and get yourself braced against the bike, you can often just prise the grip off. I usually go for that. I usually avoid putting any sort of oil anywhere on the bike that it doesn't need to be. You can obviously clean it off again afterwards before you're refitting it, but any sort of liquid that you can get inside the grip, that's the key. So reviews of all of these grips can be found on trialshack.com on the reviews page. If you think I've missed anything out in terms of grips, please let me know in the comments. If you've got any tips that you want to share, again, get them in the comments so people can see them. Big shout out to Tight Bikes for getting involved with Trial Shack and helping me review and display more products. It's really appreciated, guys. Thank you very much. Thanks for joining me today, and I'll see you again soon. Bye.